Hello, my name is Patrick Chase, one of the co-founders of Empire Space. Empire Space is a nonprofit organization dedicated to growing the New York space and aerospace ecosystem. The 21st century is going to be defined by growth and expansion in the space industry and space-related economy. And Empire Space is working to ensure that New York is a major player in this transformative era of growth. One of our primary missions is education. We educate people outside of New York about the unique strengths and attributes of the New York space and aerospace ecosystem. We educate space sector stakeholders here in the state about their partners and potential resources they can utilize to grow their operations. We also educate everyday New Yorkers about New York's rich history in space and aerospace and the impact that this industry is going to have on their daily lives. We are proud to start a brand new series of regional deep dives where we will take an intensive look at every region of the state, their history, their impact, and the particular academic, industry, government, and civic space sector resources that they have to offer. As a proud resident of Rochester, we are very happy to start this series with my home region of the Finger Lakes. The Finger Lakes is centered on metropolitan Rochester, New York, on the south shore of Lake Ontario, and is defined by a long, thin series of glacial lakes surrounded by rolling hills that is one of the largest wine producing regions in the United States. Many people might not also realize that this region is home to a modest but diverse regional space ecosystem that we are very excited to tell you about tonight. So thank you very much for joining us. Please enjoy.
When many people think of the Finger Lakes region, they may think of wineries or scenic lakes. They may think of the Rochester region, which is the birthplace of Kodak, Xerox, and Bausch and Lomb. But the Finger Lakes region is also home to a space ecosystem underpinned by dynamic universities and a solid economic base that has laid the groundwork for future growth. The Finger Lakes region has a modest and diverse space ecosystem with representation in all relevant categories and some significant academic and civic resources. This has presented the region with the opportunity to become a larger player, not only in the New York space ecosystem, but in the broader space ecosystem moving through the 21st century. Regional overview, as we have discussed, it's more diverse and well-balanced than one would think based on its modest size, anchored by major universities alongside some key civic and economic contributors. Highlight numbers: tracked space and aerospace employment over 5,256. Significant percentage of this is L3 Harris, a well-known space and defense contractor for NASA and the US government. The regional economic footprint also includes a licensed space tourist agency, which is unusual. That's a unique asset. There's also a decent aerospace manufacturing footprint here. There are 6 observatories and 2 amateur rocket launch sites in the region. This is part of that active civic footprint, kind of ties the entire ecosystem together. There are 7 major universities offering 38 unique space programs. This is kind of the heart of the space ecosystem, its core strength. 2 Finger Lakes residents have become astronauts and have spent just shy of a combined 30 days in space. There are 15 space finance resources in the Finger Lakes region, 4 of which are ranked either moderate or high space focus. Speaking of those astronauts, these are the 2 gentlemen from the Finger Lakes region that have gone to space, taking a combined 4 space shuttle missions, spending almost 30 days above the Earth, and representing the Finger Lakes region as the first native residents to have gone to the stars. Both men were successful military aviators before becoming astronauts. On the bottom left, we have Mr. James C. Adamson of Warsaw. He flew on 2 space shuttle missions in 1989 and 1991. To the right, we have Mr. C. Gordon Fullerton of Rochester, who spent just shy of 16 days in space on 2 of the earlier space shuttle missions in the 1980s. Mr. Fullerton was also a critical part of the ground support team for Apollo missions 14, 15, 16, and 17 that went to the moon. These men are a proud representation of the contributions of the Finger Lakes region to human exploration of the stars. Empire Space hopes that the next astronaut from the Finger Lakes region, it is inevitable that someone else will venture to the stars. We hope that that person represents the rich history and diversity of the people from the region. There are other explorers at the final frontier who have ties to the Finger Lakes region, even if they weren't born here. Many of these connections come via the region's outstanding education network. The top left, we have Dr. Siam Proctor. who is a graduate of Fairport High School. She was a prominent member of the SpaceX mission Inspiration 4, the first all-private astronaut mission to space, the first African-American female pilot of a spacecraft. To the right, we have Pam Melroy, a graduate of Bishop Kearney. She piloted 2 space shuttle missions and served as the commander of a third, only the second woman to hold that honor. And then the bottom left, we have Mr. Josh Casada, a graduate of the University of Rochester, both their master's and PhD programs, who launched to space. He visited the International Space Station aboard SpaceX's Crew 5 mission in October of 2022. So these folks are another example of the contributions that residents from the Finger Lakes region have made to exploration of the final frontier. Turning now to an economic overview, as we had mentioned before, there are 17 companies employing over 5,000 people across all 3 of the major sectors that Empire Space tracks. Some are large primary campuses, again, think L3 Harris. Others are small, more family-oriented businesses. These are some of the aerospace manufacturers. The average employment size is 328, which is a mid-sized company. These companies have a combined global revenue over 21 billion. This is not the revenue generated in the Finger Lakes region. This is the global footprint of the companies who have some of their operations based here in the Finger Lakes region. So it gives a sense of the market that these companies are participating in. Despite this relatively modest size, there is good diversity of category and specialization. We'll get into some of the specifics in 1 second. We have 2 examples below. Bottom left is Optimax. They do high-tech manufacturing in the optics realm for NASA, other space and aerospace clients. And at the bottom right, you have an example of Deprez Aerospace. They are the licensed space tours agent active in the Rochester region. That is a truly unique asset in the Finger Lakes space economy. Again, that category and specialization breakdown. Along the top here, you have the pie chart and the category breakdown there. All 3 categories that Empire Space tracks in our census are represented. Space and defense, just under half. Most of that is L3 Harris. Aerospace sector is the second largest component. This has ties kind of in that broader Long Island aerospace orbit, some of the legacy aerospace manufacturers. This is that slice of the pie. Core space is smallest, but is quite diverse. You can see some of the specializations there at the bottom. L3 Harris is in that telecommunications and electronics. And then you see the core space diversity down there, optics, space situational awareness, and space tourism. So that is a snapshot of the economic component of the Finger Lakes space economy. Some good diversity there. It's good to know that these companies have found roots here. Now it is incumbent on us to grow those roots so more companies can flourish not only in these fields, but we can add new slices to this pie chart. Locations within the Finger Lakes region. Avon and Ontario are the 2 outlying regions. They have 1 location each. Henrietta coming in next with 2, Greece with 3, Gates with 4, and then the city of Rochester with 6. So you can see that this is mostly a metropolitan Rochester footprint. Just over 35% there are in the city of Rochester itself, with more than half in the suburbs. Just 12% are in the surrounding counties. That's 1 each in Ontario and Livingston. So moving forward, one of the core missions of Empire Space is not only identifying gaps or concentrations or disparities like this, but then proactively identifying ways to correct them moving forward. So ensuring that when the space economy in the Finger Lakes region grows in the future, make sure it's growing everywhere, making sure that those benefits are spread evenly or thoroughly throughout the region. Turning now to the space finance footprint. While it's not New York City in terms of the size and scale of the space finance sector, it is active here. You can see some of the sector snapshots here. There are 6 companies active, focused mostly on early growth, some on the growth stage. Most of them active are venture capital firms. There is 1 angel group active in the region, and most of them are focused in the technology or in the kind of more general space and aerospace related firms. So to sum it up, the dominant form of space finance in the Finger Lakes is a venture capital firm investing in early growth technology firms in the ancillary space ecosystem, most likely located in Rochester itself. So while not New York City, it is a good sign that there is some active space finance sector here. Now the key is to see if that can be tied more deeply into the active space economy, some of the private sector companies that are active here, see what kind of connections can be made to grow that component moving forward. Now turning to the higher education network. Again, this is kind of the core of the power of the Finger Lakes space ecosystem. Multiple major local universities have extensive space-related portfolios. They provide the centerpiece for the local ecosystem. 7 institutions offering, it's actually just under 40 unique programs, including 15 related degree programs, 20 student groups with over 1,200 members. You can see the pie chart breakdown here before, most of that being Rochester Institute of Technology and the University of Rochester, but you have good representation from not only the SUNY schools in the region there in Geneseo and Brockport, but some of the other private institutions in the region as well. So a good collegiate network throughout the region. Most of the region's major universities are playing some part in the educational system here. 2 of the largest ones there, obviously, are the University of Rochester and the Rochester Institute of Technology. They are the space academic heavyweights in the region. They are the pivotal players that are not only driving a significant amount of the current activity, but hold a lot of the potential for future growth in the region. The 2 institutions offer 8 undergraduate and graduate degree programs, have 14 student groups, have ties to NASA, and are connected to local economic development groups. So there's that potential for spin-off technologies and other related developments from some of the other space-related academic work being conducted at these universities. That is a critically important component that needs to be analyzed and expanded in the future. Pictured at the bottom left, you have RIT's launch initiative. They developed that blackout rocket for their International Rocket Engineering Challenges, one of the many active student groups at RIT in space. And pictured at the bottom right, you have U of R's CEK-MES Observatory, utilized by students, faculty, and the general public. It's located in the Bristol Hills south of Rochester and hosts a 24-inch main telescope. So the Finger Lakes region does have some fantastic academic assets at the collegiate level. There is opportunity and potential to expand these opportunities and build a full space academic pipeline moving forward. You can see there in the bottom left a breakdown of the degree program offerings. Most of them are physics and physics-based. Nothing against physics. It's good to have a robust natural sciences program, but it does tend to be a little mono-focused here in the Finger Lakes. There aren't other space and aerospace related offerings. For example, there's only one aerospace program on this list offered at RIT. So it's critical moving forward for these institutions, for other institutions, to find ways to diversify their offerings in 2-year programs, 4-year programs in aerospace, space business, space policy, space finance. It increases the attractiveness not only for their institutions, but for the region as a whole. Space businesses, aerospace firms are more likely to locate to regions where there are active academic pipelines that are feeding the jobs they hope to create in the future. And then looking to the right, taking a look at the K-12 snapshot, you see the regional breakdown of the various institutions there. The yellow bar is colleges and universities. The Finger Lakes region is second there at the top, just behind New York City and Long Island. So we have a lot of fantastic colleges and universities. But the blue bar is K-12 planetariums. And Finger Lakes region is towards the bottom. So there's a disparity here between some of the collegiate offerings and some of the K-12 offerings. And it's critically important for the region to identify and to expand some of those K-12 resources. There are good things going on. Genesee County BOCES has a program with NASA Hunch. They developed a culinary program that has sent stuff to the International Space Station. We need more of that in the region. We need more of that tied into the colleges and universities that are doing good work. The region currently lags many of the other regions in the state with some of this K-12 programming. And until that's fleshed out, the academic pipeline won't be fully complete, which won't make the region completely attractive to companies that are looking to relocate. So that's a critical area of focus for the region moving forward. Turning now to some of the civic and community offerings, the Finger Lakes is a leader in amateur rocketry in the state. There are 2 fully functional amateur rocket launch sites, making it one of the most active in the state. It's a key component of the civic space infrastructure. It provides a unique form of public engagement. It's a chance for partnerships with a wide range of academic, government, and private industry groups. So it's one of those key glues that ties the space ecosystem together, ties different components together, and provides some of that innovation and connectivity. It's also just a phenomenal opportunity for young people interested in space. It presents opportunities to learn and develop skills in mechanical engineering, aerospace engineering, physics, and then just general skills, leadership, hard work, teamwork, community building. The bottom left, we have a schedule here for the Upstate Rocketry Research Rocketry Group, their 2023 schedule. They're one of the active groups here. Their collegiate rocketry program is used by scholastic groups throughout the East Coast. And on the bottom there, you have the logo for the Monroe Astronautical Rocket Society. They launched down just outside of SUNY Geneseo. So these are the two groups that are active. We encourage people to go check them out, the work that they do. And if you are in the region, go check out a launch. So the rocketry groups are just part of the civic infrastructure in the region. Below, we have pictured the Strassenberg Planetarium with the Rochester Museum and Science Center. That is the one of the undoubted hubs for community space and astronomy programming in the region. There are a total of 6 groups and 10 planetariums, observatories, and museums throughout the region. They conduct vital public programming. They partner with K-12 schools and colleges. They promote the broader space ecosystem. They support space and aerospace companies. The Rochester Museum Science Center and the Strassenberg Planetarium specifically recently upgraded their facility and are playing a key role in planning the region and preparing for the 2024 total solar eclipse. So these organizations are that key glue. They're one of the primary ways that the average person will interact with space and astronomy in their life. They're a key way for engaging young people, exposing them to space and astronomy so they can decide if they want to pursue a career in it. They're a critical component in that academic pipeline. They're a critical way of supporting private sector groups. So it's just an absolutely fantastic resource for the region to have such a high concentration of quality space and astronomy groups in the region, actively engaging with the public and with these stakeholders. Turning now to the legislative representation, every member of the Assembly and Senate from the Finger Lakes region represents at least one space sector asset, but the concentration in certain districts is obvious. This representation is bipartisan and includes urban, suburban, and rural districts. So everyone has a piece of this pie. Some just have a larger piece of the pie than others. On the bottom left, we'll start with the Assembly. You can see color-coded there based on category: planetariums and observatories, colleges and universities, et cetera, et cetera. You can see the concentration here: 137 Assemblymember Meeks, 138 Assemblymember Bronson. They represent a large chunk of the city of Rochester and its prominent suburbs, which is represented by some of the earlier data that we saw. So this is just another way of looking at that. So they represent the bulk of the academic and private sector components of the Finger Lakes space ecosystem in Albany. Members Burns and Gallahan there off towards the left, that would tend to be the rocket ranges, some of the smaller outlying universities, part of that broader collegiate network. So that is the Assembly representation. And then off to the right, we see the Finger Lakes representation by Senate district. Again, similar thing, broken down by color there. The 56 Cooney, 59 Gallivan, those are, again, the bulk of the private sector and academic activity in the regional space ecosystem. You see Senator Brook there, 55, that's the east side of Rochester. Very diverse, smaller cross-section, but a very diverse cross-section there. Senators Helming and Ort, that would be, again, like Gallahan and Burns in the Assembly, the outline, the rocket regions, and some of the smaller satellite universities. Empire Space believes that this kind of snapshot is critically important on a number of different levels. We believe that it's important for these members to understand what parts of the regional space ecosystem they represent, so that they are effectively representing these pivotal community stakeholders in Albany. It's also important for stakeholders to be aware of who their representative is in Albany, to build those productive relationships of education and mutual reinforcement. So we hope that this information is helpful to all of the parties involved. To sum up, the Finger Lakes region is ready to grow in the 21st century space age. It has a strong foundation for a region of its size. It is poised to capitalize on this to attract new opportunities and jobs in the space sector. RIT and U of R are academic powerhouses that anchor a broad collegiate space sector. It's critical to tie these institutions to the K-12 schools throughout the region, build out a full academic pipeline in space and aerospace. They are high wattage institutions. If they had a fully functional K-12 academic pipeline feeding into a more diverse and plugged in array of space degree programs, the Finger Lakes region could really take off from an academic and economic growth perspective. Private sector contributions to the local economy are greater than many realize and could thrive with a focused academic, civic, and government support network. So the civic sector is another asset. There's a mature amateur rocketry infrastructure, high quality planetariums and observatories, and active community groups. It's important to tie all of this together now. Every member of the legislative delegation in Albany has a stake in the local space ecosystem, although some represent more than others. So the pieces are there. Everyone has a piece of the pie. The civic sector, which is the critical glue, is there. The university component is there. Now it's incumbent to tie it all together so we can start to see some of that economic growth, some of the job growth, new companies coming to the region. So there are some specific ways that the Finger Lakes region can proactively boost its space ecosystem and position itself for future growth. Again, to highlight some of those specific points, engage K through 12 districts, expand their space, aerospace, and astronomy program, specifically with corresponding departments at local universities. Prepare these kids for the space economy of the future. Engage with them early, expose them to it, give them opportunities to learn, to engage. It will give them an invaluable leg up in the space-centric economy that is coming in the 2030s and 2040s. Define the space and aerospace sector as a specific component of the local economy for economic development purposes. Economic development is a big thing upstate in the Finger Lakes region. The space and aerospace sector should be a specific component that is analyzed for health, growth, sustainability, other components when local economic development organizations are looking to invest in components of the local economy. Space and aerospace should be a specific component that they analyze. For the general public, support local space astronomy and aerospace organizations in the community. Attend functions, sponsor them where you can, promote them whenever you can to family and friends. Just be pro-space, learn pro-space, support them where you can. It helps the system grow. Engage legislators about the importance of space to the economic future of the Finger Lakes region. Highlight the specific space assets that they represent. That is the critical message that we want to end this presentation with, that the Finger Lakes region is poised for growth. They have enough assets located in the right places, doing the right things already, where if a holistic approach is adopted, if they maximize what is currently going well and invest intelligently in the areas where they are currently lacking, they can become one of the dominant regions in New York in the coming growth of the space economy. Empire Space offers a number of region-specific resources that we wanted to highlight here, specifically as it relates to the Finger Lakes region. So if you come to our main data page here, empirespace.org/data, up top you see the census map, but if you scroll down a little bit, you see a regional map. Here, see the Finger Lakes region highlighted in green, number 2, Finger Lakes. You can click right on that. Also, if you come up here to data, we should go by region, highlight over and come down, you can get to the Finger Lakes, but we're going to click right here. Brings you to the Finger Lakes region homepage. Introduction up here, just an overview, some of the highlights from the different subcategories. And then scrolling down, you have excerpts from every other data table sorted by region. So every data table that Empire Space offers throughout the census, business capital, business services, private companies, planetariums and observatories, et cetera, every single table, the Finger Lakes region examples are pulled and placed right here in one easy, searchable, interactive table for you to utilize. So all of them here, you can scroll right through, click, all these links take you to their homepage. So business capital, business services, civic sector, again, New York Space Alliance, headquartered here in Rochester. They do great work. The rocketry groups, Upstate Rocketry Research Group, takes you to their homepage right here. Colleges and universities, all of the specific programs are broken down. So it starts with Hobart and William Smith, physics engineering program. Again, click, links take you right to everything you need to know about those colleges and universities. Scroll through, you get St. John Fisher, you get University of Rochester and all the work that they do, Society of Women in Astronomy and Physics. So lots of diverse offerings there. Keep scrolling, we get to SUNY Geneseo. Then we get to the Western Institute of Technology, all the programs that they have to offer there. K through 12 schools, the Geneseo program that works with NASA for food for the International Space Station is there. Again, you have links to the New Yorkers in Space, the Wikipedia pages for Mr. Fullerton and Mr. Adamson. Planetariums and observatories, so you can see the full list of all of the active planetariums, observatories, the specific launch sites here, and then the space companies. This is the list of all of the companies that are active in the Finger Lakes region. So Optimax, we had mentioned before, specialize in optics, revenue, track local employment, notes about what they do. So you see L3 Harris here mentioned a couple of times. Then you have some of these aerospace manufacturing firms with a decent footprint, 95 employees here. Again, more L3 Harris, but the Deprez group of travel agents, more aerospace manufacturing. If you want to know anything about any of the space sector stakeholders in the Finger Lakes region, the companies, the organizations, the university groups that are active, this is the data page to do it. There are a couple of other resources that we wanted to point out. One, you come to the reports, you scroll down, there's a regional analysis here that has some highlights of, you scroll down, you get to the Finger Lakes region eventually here towards the bottom. Here you are. And then one specific asset that we wanted to point out, if you come over here to the Get Involved section, this is especially for kids, parents, educators, community members. You come over here to our Get Involved page, and if you scroll down to NASA Solar System Ambassadors, this is a list of NASA Solar System Ambassadors. They are related. They are officially connected to NASA. They conduct space-related programming in the community. And this list is sorted by region. So you scroll down here. Eventually, you get to the Finger Lakes region. There's a couple of individuals here who are part of the NASA Solar System Ambassador program. Their contact information is listed right here. So if you are a young person or you know someone who is looking to get involved in space, come to this page, reach out to these individuals, engage with them. So that is the long and short of the information that is available on the Empire Space website, particular to the Finger Lakes region. Again, empirespace.org/data, Finger Lakes region here, click on it, boom, all you need. So we hope that individuals, we hope that groups, both within the Finger Lakes region and from without the Finger Lakes region, come learn about the great work that is being done in space and aerospace here, and how the region is poised to grow even more in the future.
Hello again, and thank you for joining us. We hope you have found this video to be informative, exciting, and optimistic. Empire Space is dedicated to growing the space ecosystem in the Finger Lakes and in all regions of New York, and we hope that you are interested in joining us on this exciting mission. Please be sure to follow us at EmpireSpaceNY on Twitter. Email us at info@empirespace.org with questions, comments, or suggestions. And always, you can find our work at empirespace.org. Thank you. Be safe. Have a great day.